Good evening, everyone. Once again, we are starting off time now. You are welcome to Eretmis Cyber Chat. We do this every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, and this is where you come to learn at the end of the week. Meet the Eretmis family, the cybersecurity community. We are here to learn from each other, and we are here to inspire and also motivate ourselves, and always get something for our toolbox for our career path, and for those already in the industry to be able to grow in the industry. Right. I appreciate everybody's time. Kindly mute yourself when you join. It's been said to unmute everybody as you join in. So kindly, that way we are not speaking over each other. And like we always do, we are going to start with our cyber news for the week. So if you have any news, cyber news already prepared, kindly hold on to it. We're going to give you the chance to raise your virtual hand, and you are going to share your cyber news for this week. And if you are joining us, kindly put where you're joining us from in the chat. That way we give you a shout out at the end of our presentation tonight. So you are welcome once again. Tonight's topic is not GRC, but we are looking at what is vulnerability management, right? So they were supposed to switch that up. We've been using the same kind of flyer, we just changed the topics on there, but we are going to be looking at what is vulnerability management tonight. So kindly hold on, and as we are going through, so for folks already in the vulnerability management space, I can promise you are still going to learn something, or have some additional something that you're going to put in your toolbox, right? So for tonight, I'm going to be your presenter as usual, and no co-pilot tonight. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Ledoux. I'm a cybersecurity professional. I'm the CEO of Eretmis Academy, Eretmis Inc., and then also the founder of Eretmis Academy. And I'm a QSA, PCI QSA, and I run a QSA company as well. And I do everything and anything cybersecurity. I love to teach and mentor. So that is why we do this every Friday night, to help the community, to help you grow as a security professional. So you are very much welcome. And Eretmis is a CompTIA authorized partner. So what this means is that we have a 20% discount on all vouchers for your CompTIA certifications. So if you want to sit for a CompTIA certification, you can reach out to us, and we will, give you that 20% discount. So kindly reach out if you want to, enjoy the 20% discount. And for certifications, if you've already taken any CompTIA certification or any other certification for that matter, every 3 years you have to renew your certification. So you can renew by either sitting for the exam again, or you can do it by using what they call continuous educational points. So you being here tonight, you just have to type in the chat Team Live and take a screenshot of it, and that will count as one continuous point for your continuous educational points. And you can use that depending on the certification. Sometimes they need 10, 20, 50, depending on the certification. If you join Cyber Chat every night, you'll be able to use that for your certification. So if you join throughout the whole entire year, you have more than enough continuous educational points to renew your certification come 3 years from now, or if you have a year left or something of that nature, right? So we have a WhatsApp group. I think today I checked it, is currently full, but be on the standby if you want to join. We have people coming in and out, so when somebody drops out, we can definitely put you in, right? And then also for our YouTube channel, our goal was 1 million subscribers by October this year. We hit 1 million subscribers already, and we appreciate everybody's help and support. We encourage you to continue your support and your help by spreading and sharing our YouTube channel. Not just spreading and sharing just simply for us, but it has a lot of really good stuff. Everything that we do on Cyber Chat, we post it on there. So it's a whole school, on its own on there that you can have for free, right? So kindly, if you know anybody who is interested in cybersecurity or already in the industry and wants to, build up on their knowledge base, that is the place to be, right? So tonight we will look at some cyber news, and then we'll jump into vulnerability management, a very interesting topic. So guess who is in the news for cyber news is Google Chrome, but it's for the best reasons. They didn't get breached or anything. It's for the best reasons. So what are we getting from Google Chrome? So they are adding some additional features, and that is what we are going to discuss for Cyber News. So some of the additional features that they are adding, it has an AI kick to it, right? So new AI features to Google Chrome. So the Chrome that you normally use is even going to be better, right? Some of the additional features that they are adding is what they call the tab compare. So if you have 2 or 3 tabs open and you're looking at maybe one product here, looking at another product there, you can use tab compare. It's going to compare the products, give you the pricing, the features, the specs, and all that without you, having to go in between tabs. So which is pretty cool, right? And then also they are going to have a feature where you can query, you can use Google Chrome, kind of like if you want to use ChatGPT in a conversational way. So you can type in what was the ice cream place or ice cream shop that I looked at last week or that I went to last week, and it is going to show you. So you don't have to go through and browse through your history of your search history, or even if you've been there and you've set your Google to track your location, it will be able to, bring that up. So you can ask it questions, things that you had to go search for yourself. You can ask Google now, Google Chrome, and it's going to produce it, right? So which is pretty cool. So just be on the lookout. I think it's not out yet. Is going to be out pretty soon. So this is some additional AI feature for Google Chrome that is going to make it cool. And I think maybe I'm just speculating, maybe Microsoft will probably also be coming with something like that for Edge, right? So, and also in the news, Ohio is in the news for not much of good news, right? So in, I think, 18th July of last month, right, there was some alert that went on social media. Ohio, the state, alerted people who lived in Ohio that, like the residents, that there was kind of some incident that was going on. But then they came back to say that their IT team, cybersecurity team, they've been able to thwart the effort of the attackers, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So they tried and they did something, but unknowingly to them, the attackers had already gained access to their network, and the attackers were able to exfiltrate 6.5 terabytes of sensitive information from from Columbus, that's Ohio, government systems, right? So sensitive information will include your social security, your address, and stuff like that. 6.5 terabytes. That is a lot of data, right? And now they are asking for. So the state was saying, the attack wasn't successful, but then the attackers they've leaked some of the information online, right? So now we know for sure that they were able to get some of this information. So I don't know where the disconnect was for the IT team, the security team, for the state to say they were able to handle it. But then, attackers were able to also get in anyways. So more to follow, right? Maybe probably if they are done with their incident response, they'll be able to come up with some more reasons for the disconnect and why this went on, right? So with that, if if you have any cyber news, you can bring it up whilst we jump into tonight's topic. Just raise your virtual hand. I know Renee always will always be the first to go. Any news, Renee, tonight?
No, I'm going to say the same thing you found out. So we on the same page.
Okay. Okay, great, great, great,
All right.
great. Okay. So we are going to jump into tonight's topic. But before we do, if you are looking to start a career in cybersecurity, our cybersecurity entry-level course, hands down, is the best course that is out there. In terms of pricing, in terms of what you are going to get out of it, you are going to go through, all you need is to be able to read and write and be computer literate. No IT background needed, no cybersecurity background needed. You don't need to know coding or any of that. And you don't need to know math, or you don't need to know how to type really fast, right? None of that. We take you from where you are, build you up to become a confident cybersecurity professional who can work in different roles in cybersecurity. So we train you everything on the blue side of security. And our training is also like 80% biased on GRC, which GRC covers almost everything in the security space. So you are going to go through 2 months of training and 2 months of internship. The internship is our GRC internship, which you're going to go through working on projects, GRC projects, and more, right? Projects even beyond GRC. So if you are looking to jump into the security space, you are already in IT or you have no IT background, you are in health, you want to jump into cybersecurity, our cybersecurity entry-level course is the place to be, right? So don't skip this and go and do some training and then come back and say, Dr. Edu, they didn't give me the hands-on that I needed. I don't have the practical experience, so I don't feel confident to go work on the job. Now, anybody who's taking our entry-level course, people will normally say, so on the job, are you going to support us? The training that you're going to go through in the internship, you don't even need any support on the job. And that is a fact. And there are people here who can attest to that. Now, for folks already in IT or in cybersecurity, if you are looking to specialize in a niche, our PCI DSS course is the best option for you also as well. If you are looking for anything in the compliance space, PCI DSS, arguably the most lucrative niche and niche within a niche. So it's one area that if you master, it is going to really pay off in terms of job satisfaction and then also the monetary aspect of it, compensation as well, right? So look into that also if you are trying to specialize. Now, our GRC internship / workshop, this is part of our entry level, but for folks who already have, probably you did RMF, you did some other training elsewhere, and you're looking for the hands-on, practical, real-world work experience, if you join this, we are going to pair you with one of our 2 sister companies that we work for during the internship, and you are going to work on real-world cybersecurity projects. So from doing audits, conducting audits, doing risk assessment, conducting a full-blown risk assessment, third-party risk assessment, working on projects in incident response and others, 10 major projects within 8 weeks. That is going to make you, put you, in a better position to be able to attend interviews, speak to projects you've worked on, and also on the job, you'll be able to function effectively because you've worked on most of the projects that that is going to be thrown at you, right? And lastly, our conference that is coming up in October, that is on the 25th to 27th, is going to be in Maryland. We are going to come up with the specific venue very soon. We're supposed to wrap that up this week, but we were not able to because we are considering like 3 different places now. So more to come. But the link for you to show your interest, we are going to put it in the chat. You can go ahead and register for us to know the number of people who are interested in this. That will also help us in terms of the venue and the pricing and all that. So kindly do so if you've not already registered to show your interest, right? And with this, we'll move into our topic tonight. What is vulnerability management? So we cannot tackle vulnerability management without knowing what a vulnerability is. So how do we do vulnerability management if we don't know what a vulnerability is, right? So we are jumping into first defining what a vulnerability is, and then we'll move into vulnerability management. And there is even more, right? There is more. I'm not going to, spoil it for you. When we get there, we are going to go a little bit beyond vulnerability management also as well, right? So it's going to be very interesting tonight. But we're also going to try and keep it within an hour and a half for tonight. So for vulnerability, what is a vulnerability? I'm just going to give maybe 2 or 3 people can, give it a shot. Breaking it really down, grandpa style, what is a vulnerability in information security? What do we consider to be a vulnerability? Kindly raise your virtual hand if you want to give this a shot.
May I define it,
Go ahead,
please?
Sandra.
Okay. It's a weakness or flaw in a system or software network.
Okay, that is more of an academic definition. So for a layman, I don't know any of these terms that you're talking about. How would you define vulnerability?
Okay. It's for example, if like you have a company and you don't have anything to like protect or secure your information, you are really vulnerable for other people to get into it. Is that
Okay.
kind of okay? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'll buy that for $1. All right. Natalie, please go ahead. What is a vulnerability?
Hello, that's what I wanted to say also, but I can add that like it could be a misconfiguration or human error or an outdated software, something like that is a vulnerability.
Okay. So let's even make it fun. In your house, what will you consider to be a vulnerability in your house? So let's take it outside
window.
IT.
You
Well,
took
Emmanuel, go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Well,
because you just took my example. That's what I was gonna say because you said grandpa style, right?
yes.
So
Well,
for a
okay,
lay
go ahead.
person, I'm sorry, please finish. Go ahead.
I could say that a vulnerability could be a small crack in your door at home, and if you don't fix it, it could be a leeway for a burglar to get in.
Okay. Good. What else? I think
I was speaking, but I
yes,
can
go ahead,
complete
please.
what I was going to say. I was going to
Yes.
say just, a general definition could be an exploitable internal weakness, right? And it could be something as simple as there's a lock on the door that's broken, right? So it is exploitable. So somebody can break into your door and then they can get whatever's inside.
Okay. And we'll take one more and we move on. Isaac, please go ahead.
I think a vulnerability is any weak spot that can be taken advantage of to create harm, to cause harm.
Okay.
In any case, in any system, not necessarily just IT.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So for all the examples that were given, right on the money, right? And reason why I say every time I want us to break it down grandpa style, if you are able to break it down grandpa style from the academic, technical, cybersecurity terminology to grandpa style, then it means you really understand it, right? Because when it comes to the definitions, we can all, kind of memorize these definitions and just throw it around. But really, when it comes down to it, what does it really mean? Right. So for vulnerability, we experience it in our house, in our home, everywhere, we live with it. So, but when we look at it specifically from information security standpoint, if we understand it from our everyday life, it's easy for us to appreciate it more, right? So for like the example that you were giving, if your doorknob, to your house, to your apartment is not working, so you are unable to lock your door, I don't think you are going to sleep soundly at night, right? You are not going to sleep soundly at night, knowing very well that anybody can open your door at any point in time, right? Nobody's going to be happy about that, and you can't sleep. That is a vulnerability. And vulnerability in our organizations, if we know them, then they should keep us up at night, right? Because attackers can also come in our door at any time. So from your car, if your car's lock is not working, parking your car anywhere else becomes really uncomfortable, right? Unless, of course, probably you put it in a garage and you lock it. Either than that, if you go downtown or you go anywhere else and your car is like you're trying to lock it, it doesn't lock. That is a huge vulnerability because anybody can open your car at any point in time, take something from it, right? Or even steal your car for that matter. So all that is a vulnerability. Now, when we bring it to the IT side or the security side, let's even personalize it. Your phone, if there is no lock on your phone is vulnerable, right? So if there is no lock on your phone and you leave it or your phone is lost and you have some sensitive information, probably you took a picture of your credit card on it, you have, some sensitive information, you are going to, go straight into a panic mode. There was no lock on it. And anybody can just, as soon as you just have to touch it, it opens and you can have, that is a huge vulnerability, right? So that is why we put locks on our phone. We are using our fingerprints on our phone to secure it. So, and then also if there are updates, there is a new update on your phone, you are advised to install it as soon as possible, right? All that we are doing, we are practicing vulnerability management. So from our home, from how we manage our family, we live and we practice vulnerability management on day-to-day basis, right? But when we look at it from the IT perspective, it looks like, something that we really have to learn or we have to. But if you look at it from this perspective, I mean, we are living it every day. So the same principles and techniques that you use in everyday life to manage vulnerability, similar techniques and strategies are what we use on the IT cybersecurity side. So in cybersecurity, in information security, what is considered to be a vulnerability is exactly what we will consider to be a vulnerability in our day-to-day life. So if your company, looking at it from people, processes, and technology, anything that is a form of weakness in how we protect the people aspect, in how we protect the technology, in how we protect the processes within our company, that is what we consider to be a vulnerability, right? And we are going to look at some of the examples, but mostly we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we don't look at vulnerability only from the standpoint of technology. We are all biased. We just vulnerability, you do vulnerability scans. If I ask you right now, what are some of the things we do in vulnerability management? Vulnerability scans, that's the very first thing everybody is going to say. But what about, Isaac, who don't know which emails not to click on? A vulnerability scan is not going to reveal that Isaac don't know, which emails are bad emails, so he shouldn't click on them, right? So we have to look at it from the perspective of people, processes, and technology. So with the definition of what a vulnerability is, we are even going to expand it further. Now, where does vulnerability come in? Like, how does it even come into the question of information security, right? I know for our PCI, new PCI class, we do 2 weeks of cybersecurity crash course. And for the cybersecurity crash course that we've started, we just started one, I think, yesterday, and we were discussing the core aspects of cybersecurity, and we were talking about risks, the core of everything that we do in cybersecurity. Who can tell me the one job that everybody has in cybersecurity? One job, regardless of what role that you are in. If you are a pen tester, if you are information security analyst, you are ISO, you are, name it, whatever you are doing, we all have
data.
One job. Say that again.
Protecting data.
Okay, close. Emmanuel, please go ahead.
Yeah, risk analysis.
Maybe a little bit close. Seth?
Dr. Eddie, one of the
minimize risks.
Say it again, Seth.
Yeah, you want to minimize risks.
Yes. So Seth took it from everyone. Minimizing risks. So everything that we are doing in security, we have only one goal: to reduce risks to an acceptable level. And the acceptable level is determined by your organization, right? So then the question is, what is risks, right? And when we define risks, the basic two elements that has to be present for risks to materialize: vulnerability and threat, right? If there is a vulnerability, there is a threat, and the threat exploits the vulnerability or takes advantage of the vulnerability, then risk has materialized. So that is where vulnerability fits in the whole entire cybersecurity sphere, right? So we can talk about vulnerability all day, but how does it fit in cybersecurity? Risk is at the top of everything that we do in cybersecurity, mitigating risks or reducing risk to an acceptable level. Now, when we define risks, vulnerability is right in there. Vulnerability, threat, right? And between vulnerability and threat, which one can we really control within our organization? Anyone? Can we control threats?
Vulnerability.
Yes, of course. The only thing that we have control over is our vulnerability. For threats, we can guesstimate, we can use threats, different threats models to, estimate what attackers are going to do and game plan for it. But really, all that we are doing is guessing. For vulnerabilities, if we know this is a vulnerability, we can do something really tangible to reduce it to like a negligible level, right? So what we have to concern ourselves, if we know about threats and vulnerability, what we have to concern ourselves about most in a company is to reduce vulnerability, because if we reduce vulnerability, we are reducing the overall risks, right? That is why we do vulnerability management. And that is why we do threat management as well. But everything that we are doing in threat management is pretty much guesstimation. We are just guessing and, although kind of doing some informed guessing, but for vulnerabilities, we can really do something about it, right? So vulnerability management, this is where it fits in the whole entire cybersecurity sphere, right? So now jumping into vulnerability itself is a weakness or a flaw in, our setup. So in the people side, if our employees are clicking on random emails and they are falling victim to phishing attacks, that is a flaw. The fact that they don't know or they are not being trained on which emails not to click on and what an attack looks like, phishing attack looks like, that is a vulnerability, right? If on the technology side, we just got a new firewall, very expensive, a new Palo Alto firewall, but we configured it wrong. So we configured it to allow all traffic in, right? Then that is a flaw in the configuration. So that is also a huge vulnerability. Although the system is good, but the configuration is totally wrong. So it's a vulnerability, right? On the processes side, how we conduct certain types of activities can also lead to attackers, gaining access into our network. That can also be a flaw, right? So, or a weakness. So for vulnerability, just think about it as a weakness in anything that you do. If you identify such weakness, then it's a vulnerability that we have to take care of, right? So we have to take care of it as soon as possible. So let's look at some examples. And these examples are a bit biased, just looking at technology. But I think I mentioned some of the processes and the people types of vulnerabilities also as well. So for on-patch software, if we on like operating systems and other applications that we have, if there are any software updates and we don't install them in time or on time, then that will also be a vulnerability that attackers can use to exploit our system. So for hackers, when they are trying, they just don't hack into anything. They do a lot of research, right? So before they can get onto your network, it means they've spent hours, days, and weeks to research the type of applications you are running, the type of systems you are having, So, and once they identify the type of systems and the type of applications you are and software you are running on your infrastructure, the next step is they will start researching into the type of vulnerabilities associated with those types of systems, right? So if they've seen that you are running Windows 95 and they know Windows 95 has a lot of vulnerabilities, so they'll just start digging more into the type of vulnerabilities that they can use to exploit, that they can exploit to get onto your network, right? So they don't just happen to get onto your network by accident. A lot of research goes into pen testing, right? So for folks who think pen testing is sexy, hacking, I can just hack into stuff. It's not sexy. You have to be a researcher. A lot of research and a lot of try and error. So if they identify or they run a scan on your different IP addresses and they discover that there is an application that is running an unpatched software then or the application, the software is unpatched, they are running an older version of that type of software, then that is a low-hanging fruit for them. So they can easily, hop onto that and use that to bridge your network, right? So system misconfiguration also, like I said, if you have any system and you don't know how to configure it, you configure it wrong. So example, if you have a firewall, you configure the firewall to allow all types of traffic, then you are going to have a problem, right? Because although the firewall is working right, it is supposed to help the organization prevent certain, malicious traffic from coming onto the network, but it was configured wrong, so it is allowing everything, right? And such misconfigurations can be very costly in terms of attackers being able to take advantage of that, right? There have been countless attacks where it was just due to sheer, I'll say maybe carelessness on the part of people who were configuring it. For example, you get new servers, and these new servers, you don't go in there to change the username and password that it came with. I mean, that is security 101. And you just put it on your production line, you put it as part of your enterprise. Attackers they just have to type in admin or whatever the default username and password is, and they've been granted access onto your system, right? Those are just silly mistakes, right? That no company should be making, but it will surprise you the type of companies and how big companies are falling victim to these. So all these are forms of vulnerabilities. Now, broken authentication, if you are using a weak password, you're not using multi-factor authentication, all those are also vulnerabilities. Insecure cryptographic storage, if you are using weak cryptography to encrypt your sensitive data that you are storing or to transmit, you are using weak encryption types like SSL to transmit data from point A to point B, then that is also another form of vulnerability, right? So cross-site scripting and also cross-site request forgery. So the vulnerability here is not, these are forms of attacks, but the vulnerability that allows these forms of attacks to be easy for attackers to execute is what we call lack of input validation, right? So if you go to a website and it allows you to type, you're supposed to type in your name, like it has a form that you have to fill, and your name, your address, your phone number, and in the place for your phone number, you can type alphabets, and it doesn't limit you to how many you can type. You can just type anything and everything in there. But that application lacks input validation, right? If instead of your name, it allows you to type in 1, 2, 3, and you can type as many characters as you want, it lacks input validation. And that can lead to cross-site request forgery, and then cross-site scripting. Also, buffer overflow, all types of attacks that attackers can use if your application lacks input validation. So input validation is the weakness here. So we are going to move on to some real-world vulnerabilities and how some forms of attacks that came out of such vulnerabilities. So the first one, Equifax, they had a data breach 2017 that bordered on credit card and debit card information also as well. And it was due to an unpatched vulnerability in the Apache web application, right? For a company like Equifax, for them to fall victim to this type of attack, that is silly, right? But, somebody is getting paid big money, and not somebody, a group of people are getting paid big money, and they are letting this happen under their watch. There is no way a company this big with the resources and the money they have to fall victim to such form of attack, right? So to leave such a big vulnerability out for attackers to just easily come in there, not even work for it, just take it, and just go, right? The impact, they lost almost 147 million, customers. Their sensitive information, social security and credit card information were, put out into the public or were stolen, right? And then we have the Heartbleed 2014. Also, this vulnerability, the vulnerability that allowed this type of attack to be successful was an OpenSSL library, right? That allowed attackers to read memory content of servers. So you shouldn't be using SSL in the first place. You should be using older versions of TLS, not early versions of TLS. So this type of attack, they were able to hit most companies also as well because of this similar vulnerabilities that were found in different systems, right? So this is real. It's not, and a lot of, I know Equifax, they lost almost more than 200 million, almost 300 million plus is what they lost in terms of because of this forms, like because of this attack, right? Or this breach. So companies, they are taking this more seriously now, but still, they are still falling for such, little silly vulnerabilities that attackers are able to take advantage of. I don't know why, if it's just complacency or just lack of supervision, or I don't know what is going on. But for attackers to attack your company, if it's a 0-day vulnerability that they used, I mean, then there's very little that you could have done about it, right? But for such misconfigurations and others, you can really prevent those, right? So now we will jump into, we've looked extensively at vulnerability itself and the different types, and so now we can safely jump into vulnerability management. What is vulnerability management? So simply put, how we manage the vulnerabilities. I have a question, sir. Kindly hold one. I'll let you ask your question. So simply put, how we manage the vulnerabilities that we find within our organization, right? Do we really have to have an outfit to manage vulnerabilities? Yes, we do. Now, vulnerability management falls under your vulnerability program or your vulnerability management program, right? And then we have different aspects of vulnerability management that we are going to be looking at, right? So can you name one or two things that you think will go under your vulnerability management? I'm going to take what maybe most people will say, vulnerability scans and vulnerability assessment. That is out. What else do we do under vulnerability management before we jump into it?
Training.
Okay. Yes, training is one. Go ahead, Seth.
Pen testing.
Okay. Yeah, that is one. Also, a very key part of it. Natalie, please go ahead.
There's like asset inventory part of it.
Yes.
If you want to start,
yes,
all this.
Because you can't protect what you don't know you have.
Yeah.
Of course. So yes, that is a big part of it. That is where it should even start. Right. Olan, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, sir. The input validation, is it a vulnerability or a control to be used against attack on web application?
Lack of input validation is a vulnerability.
Okay, lack. Okay, I get that. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, I think everyone with their hands up spoke already. All right, so let's jump into vulnerability management for tonight. Natalie, please go ahead. Or you just lowered your hand.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what is vulnerability management? Vulnerability management is a program that every organization should put in place to help manage vulnerabilities within their, security setup, right? It should be a standalone program as part of your overall risk management program. Vulnerability management should be a standalone program that helps, and you should have at least a vulnerability analyst or anybody with a title within security can do vulnerability management, but mostly they'll have a vulnerability management specialist, vulnerability management analyst, or somebody with such title to run and manage the program, right? So this program covers everything in terms of identifying, evaluating, treating the vulnerability, reporting the vulnerability, and also continuously monitoring vulnerabilities in systems and software. Now, I was talking about us being biased, looking at vulnerability management only from the perspective of technology. It goes beyond technology. So training like, I don't remember, I think, I'm not sure who mentioned training, but training on the people side is one of the controls that we can put in place to really mitigate vulnerabilities on the people side. So when we look at vulnerability management, kindly don't just limit yourself to technology, right? So it goes beyond technology. Now we are talking about vulnerability in systems and software, but vulnerability in systems and software, they are easy to really kind of, put, reduce or manage. Vulnerability in our staff, vulnerability in people, that is very hard to control and hard to manage, right? And also vulnerability in processes, hard to manage. You know why? Because people are the ones who are going to be using the software and the systems. So if they don't know what right looks like, they will configure our system and they'll configure it wrong, right? They will use our software and they'll use it wrong. And that can also lead into other forms of, vulnerability that attackers can use to get onto our network. So although we are looking at it from this perspective, and this is the definitions and that we have, but I want you to look at it from a holistic point of view. It goes beyond technology. So we look at it, system, processes, and technology. Technology, processes, and people as well. And the goal of vulnerability management, obviously, the overall goal, reducing vulnerability reduces the overall risks of your organization. So reducing vulnerability management helps us to reduce vulnerabilities that we discover. And in so doing, we are reducing the overall risks, which is the goal of everything that we do in information security, right? So this is a continuous process. It doesn't stop, right? It goes through. We are going to look at the steps. It goes all the way through, and then it will start back again, right? So continuous monitoring is the last item, and then we jump into discovery or identify again and do the whole entire process again. So this is an ongoing process within the company that shouldn't stop, because vulnerabilities, we keep discovering new vulnerabilities every day. So the history and the background behind vulnerability is being around for a while. Back in the day, we used to do this manually for the most part, and it was more reactive. So we will wait for an incident to happen, and then we'll try to, react to it. But now it has moved, and there's been a significant change, right, over the years. So automated systems and tools that came about in the early 90s and the 2000s, these tools, they've totally transformed how we do vulnerability management, totally transformed it, right? So it has given us an approach of going the proactive way, and then also looking at it from a very comprehensive, perspective, rather than doing it. If you're doing everything vulnerability management manually now, we wouldn't be that effective, because most of the things that we do for vulnerability management, automated tools are our go-to, right? And now AI even plays a very key role as well. So, and also with frameworks and standards, such as most of the ones from NIST and other quarters, and also with, an organization called FIRST coming up with CVSS, and then also NIST coming up with NIST and MIDA coming up with CVE and also CWE. All these types of development has really helped, because now we are able to quantify, or we are able to put a number to vulnerabilities in terms of criticality, simply because of such development from NIST and FIRST and other organizations like MIDA and others, right? So now vulnerability management has even become easier, and is in a better place. So most organizations that are just going to look on and become victims due to little silly vulnerabilities that attackers are able to find, it is really, they are not really doing any good to themselves, right? So let's look at the components. What comes together? What, are the different aspects or the different parts of vulnerability management? So we have different aspects of vulnerability management. Vulnerability assessment is one, patch management, another, configuration management, threat intelligence integration, another one, and then compliance and policy management. So we first look at vulnerability assessment. So everybody, if I ask you, what do you know when it comes to vulnerability management, everybody will talk about doing vulnerability scans. So that falls under vulnerability assessment. Similar to what we do for risk assessment, vulnerability assessment, we do scans, but it goes beyond just scans. We also have to look at it from the people perspective and the processes perspective as well. But from the technology standpoint, scanning and identify vulnerabilities within our systems and applications. But like I said, vulnerabilities it goes beyond technology, right? So don't just look at this and you say this is just it. Now, patch management also, when patches are available or updates are available, we have to make sure we are installing them on a timely manner. Now, for just one or two systems, it's easy to manage. Now, if you have 5,000 computers, that is not easy to manage, right? So we have to, and you have, let's say, almost, some companies are using almost like 100 different applications or software. Kindly mute yourself. All right. So most companies that are using a lot of software, managing the different, times and dates and new patches that are coming up, we have to really have a program for it also as well. And that program falls under vulnerability management, and that is your patch management, right? So patch management also falls under vulnerability management as well, right? And also we have configuration management. So for configuration also as well, if you have 2 or 3 systems, not such a big deal. But what if you have maybe 7,000 endpoints, 3,000 servers, and that you have to manage? Then we have to have a program that we are going to use to configure, systems, and then also software that we are using. So configuration management also plays a key role under vulnerability management. And we have threat intelligence integration. So like I said, with threats, we can always guesstimate, but there are some, ways and means that we can do intelligent or educated guesses. And that is where your threat intelligence integration also comes in, right? And then we have compliance and patch management also as well. So as part of policy management, not patch management, policy management, vulnerability management, there are a lot of compliance twists to vulnerability management as well, because there are a lot of compliance standards that also, comes with some, that will come with some vulnerability expectations, right? So you have to meet certain vulnerability management expectations to be able to meet that type of framework or standard, right? Typical example, because we work more in the PCI space. For PCI, when it comes to vulnerability management, one of the requirements talks about making sure that, and that is requirement 11.2, 11.3, thereabout in PCI, it talks about vulnerability scans, right? Conducting quarterly vulnerability scans, external and internal, which falls under your vulnerability assessment here, right? It also talks about patch management, that if there is a new patch that has been pushed out by any vendor, the organization has up to 1 month to make sure those patches are installed, right? So you see how, compliance also overlaps into vulnerability management and other areas of security, right? So like I always say, all parts of security, they all overlap into each other. So you cannot say, I'm just going to look at one and forget about the others. because as you're looking at that one, there will be items in there that you wouldn't understand because it comes from, some other aspect of security. So patch management, vulnerability assessment, they also come. So the total vulnerability management, there is some policy and compliance aspect to it. So there has to be also something for us to do in terms of how we are going to stay in compliance, and then also policies and also policy management to be able to make sure that for our compliance obligations, we are meeting that as well. Now we are going to look at the role of vulnerability management in cybersecurity and risk management. But before we do, what do you think? And I think we spoke about this before we started and we were going through all this. When it comes to vulnerability management, it has a place in security and it has a place in risk management as well. Right now, in information security, everything start with mitigating risks, so risk management and everything falls in place there. And as part of that, as part of risk management, we have vulnerability management and other types of management activities, right? So the role that vulnerability management play, or like the role that it plays in cybersecurity itself, is for everything that we are doing in cybersecurity, our goal is to reduce risks, but we can't reduce risks without managing our vulnerabilities. So that is where it fits, right? So everything that we are doing in vulnerability management, we are ultimately trying to reduce risks. All activities are geared towards. So that is where vulnerability management fits under cybersecurity or information security. And under risk management is the mother of vulnerability management. And threat management also falls under risk management as well, right? Because those are the two main components that makes risks in the first place, vulnerability and threats. So vulnerability management falls directly under risk management. So anything that falls under vulnerability management also falls under the bigger umbrella of risk management, right? So everything that we are doing under risk management directly falls under vulnerability management, directly falls under risk management, which also falls under the bigger umbrella of cybersecurity or information security itself, right? So it helps us with giving us a systematic approach to identifying and defining vulnerabilities and also addressing them effectively. And with that, we will jump into what we talked about earlier. So for folks who are looking to join the cybersecurity workforce, our cybersecurity entry-level course is the place to be. It comes with everything. We would literally hold your hand to the point where you can start working in the security space as a cybersecurity professional, working in different roles. And for our PCI, if you are looking to join, or if you are looking to join the ranks of cybersecurity professionals who have specialized in the most lucrative niche in the cybersecurity space, then you can join our PCI class, either the expert or the specialist. And then also for folks who've had some training elsewhere, you went to school, you have a degree in cybersecurity, but you are liking the real world hands-on. So when you go to interviews, you really don't have much to say. After talking about what you've studied and what you've learned, I mean, it's obvious that you've really not done the work. This is your solution. Our cybersecurity internship and workshop is where you are going to come and get your hands dirty working on cybersecurity projects. And with that, we are going to jump into our conference that we are encouraging everybody to show your interest by signing up for us to know the numbers that, hey, we have at least a raw figure that we are going to use for our planning processes. So more to follow on that. We are going to jump into vulnerability management processes. So what are the steps involved in vulnerability management? Before we jump into it, maybe 2 or 3 people, if you can give us some of the steps, in your opinion, what do you think are some of the steps involved in vulnerability management? You can kindly raise your virtual hand. Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
We first have to identify your vulnerabilities.
Yes, right on the money. Anybody else? Adebola, please go ahead. You are muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I said I think we also need to evaluate the vulnerabilities and also prioritize the vulnerabilities as well.
Yes.
So evaluation.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Mike, please go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say to classify the vulnerabilities into how critical they are.
Okay.
Which will lead to the prioritization.
Yes. Thank you. Giovanni, please go ahead.
Possible vulnerabilities, you will also want to identify some possible threats.
Oh, like your voice was very, very low. If you can kindly repeat.
Along with identifying vulnerabilities, you will also want to identify some possible threats.
Okay. Okay. I'll buy that. Emmanuel, I'm not sure if you went already. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not here. Good. I
Yes, go
think
ahead, Emmanuel.
since vulnerability is a way of managing or reducing risk, we have to identify or take inventory of the access we are trying to protect first.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's true.
Very beginning, yeah.
Yes, true. Alex, please go ahead.
Come in. Oh, sorry.
So what I was thinking, once we identify the vulnerability, the next one is protect. Then after that is to detect. I don't know if it's like the way we should go about it.
Okay, though more to follow on that one. William, please go ahead.
I think after identifying the vulnerability, we need to also, first of all, contain the vulnerability, and then we can respond and protect the type of vulnerability, and then we can recover and then take the lesson learned so that we can face the future if there's any vulnerability that is going to happen again.
Okay, you also have a very good point. LM, please go ahead and we will move forward. LM and then Jermaine will go ahead, LM.
Yeah, identify and then evaluate already mentioned, but we have to mitigate and then also report it.
Okay, yes. I think you added one more element to it that has not been mentioned. I think, Jermaine, please go ahead.
You have to assign the owner, who will be responsible for working on that vulnerability.
Yes, true. Very true. George, please go ahead.
I don't know if they said anything about prioritizing the vulnerabilities, because it's not every vulnerability they will have time to respond to. So I think prioritizing which one is more critical to attend to first than the rest that are less critical.
Okay. Great. So everybody has a very valid point. I think we are going to move on, and I'll still give everybody the chance to also speak, but we'll move on at this point and move straight into the vulnerability management processes, right? So what everybody said is right. Before we even jump into it, what I always say, and for folks who've been to Cyber Chat a couple of times, and some of the students, if you remember, like I give this example all the time, right? You're a bus driver, school bus driver, right? So you drive kids to school and back. Now in the morning, parents just you stop, they will have their kids on board your bus, and probably you are taking them to, so it's summer, there's probably like a program, a summer camp, summer program. They put the kids in there, you took the kids to the summer camp, you came back, and now they are like, well, maybe LM comes up and, yeah, my son is not part of, like my son took your bus, but he's not here, and everybody on your bus got out. How are you going to account for that? The problem is when you took them in the morning, you didn't count them and you didn't check them by name, right? So when you're coming back, you don't know who was in your bus to start with. So anybody can just get on your bus, and if the bus is not full, okay, I mean, then when you come back, now people are asking for their kids, and you don't know what to say because you don't know which kid is who's, and who was on the bus in the morning, right? See how, disastrous that can be. Same way in your organization, if you don't know what you have in terms of systems and, in terms of applications that you are using, in terms of virtual systems that you are using, and you don't know how many of what you have and where they are located, then how are you going to protect them? Or how are you going to account for them? Because that is how attackers win. If you have 5,000 computers in your organization and you think you have 1,200, the 3,800, there are different doors for attackers to get onto your network. And because you don't know they are there, you don't manage them. So there can be a software update on all these 3,000 systems and you're not even aware because you don't know they are there. And all those are, 3,800 vulnerabilities that attackers can easily, use to breach your system, right? Two, if you know you have 5,000 and 3,000 is in this location, the rest you don't know where they are, how are you going to protect them, right? So as part of any type of vulnerability management activities or even to start the process, you have to know where everybody is at or where everything is at. Right. So I think I don't remember who talked about inventory, but you have to make sure the first thing in vulnerability management, before we jump into identify, discover, and all that, if you are identifying and discovering, but you don't know where half of your, items or where half of your systems and your applications are, then what you are doing is just a waste of your time and resources, right? Because you are protecting less than probably half of what you have. And attackers, and all those are still connected to your network. So attackers can still use them to get onto your network, right? So first thing we do is to make sure we have a very solid inventory and we are not leaving anything out. So including your wired, wireless systems, including your virtual systems, your physical systems, all types of applications, right? We have inventory of that. And that is only on the system, or that is only on the technology side. On the people side, we also have to have inventory of everybody, right? So how many users do you have? What access do they have to what? Because the people side is, I'll say, is even more dangerous than the technology side. Because guess who is managing the technology side? People. Guess who is managing processes? People. So that is where a lot of the problem, comes from. And then also, if the people side is managed well, everything else is also going to fall in place, right? So your inventory is not just for the systems and applications you have, but also for the people, for the processes that you have within your organization as well, right? Without also not leaving anybody out. So let's jump into, with that out of the way, now we can safely look into the steps. So the first one is identify or discover, right? And what we do here on the technology side, we will do vulnerability scans, use automated tools to do vulnerability scans, identify vulnerabilities. So systems, ports that are open, protocols that are being used, all of that we will be able to see and know. And if there are any any vulnerabilities in those areas, we identify that. And then the next step is evaluation. So once we've identified the vulnerabilities, we are going to evaluate the vulnerability, and the evaluation will help us to do prioritization. So under evaluation, we do risk assessment and we do prioritization as well. And for identification, we have vulnerability scanning, but that should be even second. First thing is inventory, right? Like I talked about asset inventory, that should even be done before you jump into identification or discovery, right? And then for evaluation, we are looking at prioritization, and then you do risk assessment, right? So you are prioritizing based on the type of vulnerability. So this prioritization, similar to what the health folks will do in an emergency setting. So if you're in an emergency room 4 people just showed up. One broke his pinky. The other one is bleeding badly from an artery on the neck. Right. So blood is just, gushing out. The other one broke their knee. Other one just has headache or constipation. Whom are you going to treat first? Right. That is prioritization, because all these people, they came to the emergency for a reason, right? They are not feeling that well. But once, like one illness or one, incident might probably take the life of somebody, or one is more deadly. You can prioritize it by which one is more deadly. So you tackle the ones that are more deadly, followed by the other one that is a little bit more deadly, all the way to the one with the pinky broken, right? Not to say if you break your pinky is not painful or anything, but if somebody is, bleeding from the neck, and it's not just blood coming out little by little, but it's from a really big vein, and they have like 3 minutes to leave, we're not going to waste time trying to solve your pinky problem, right? So that is what we do for prioritization. If you do a scan and the CVSS score on the vulnerability is maybe 2.0 or 3.2, and there's another one that is 10, CVSS score is 10, that is a critical vulnerability. So you have to fix that as soon as possible. You don't waste your time fixing a vulnerability whose CVSS score is 1.2, right? Whilst you have a lot of 10s or 9.5 vulnerabilities there, right? So same thing like how you do in the emergency room, same thing is what we do here. Which one is more deadly? Those are the ones that you fix first. And they are more deadly because the higher the CVSS score is, and also the level of exploitability, attackers might easily be able to take advantage of that. The lower the score, it means attackers, the likelihood or the impact of that vulnerability is very low or less, right? So that is why we do prioritization. And then your overall risk assessment, with the prioritization, you'll be able to do a good risk assessment. And then you move on to the next stage, right? Clement, go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Dr. Ado. I just wanted to ask, I know maybe I didn't get it right, but how do we get to that scores or that point that we tell you one is like 1.5 or 2 and the other one is 7 or 10? How do we come about that?
Okay, so that is a full cyber
That
chat.
is the reason why he mentioned the DVSSS, so that you know the scoring. So if you put it on the scoring, then you know which one you should prioritize. I think that's what he already said.
So I think what Clement was asking was, how do you come up with the score in the first place, right? CVSS score.
Yes, exactly how do you come up with
Okay, so this is an assignment for everybody for tonight. Thanks to Clement. Everybody's going to do this over the weekend and bring this next week. I'm going to ask this. So for CVSS score, right? I'm just going to, go off tangent just a little bit for educational purposes. We've done a cyber chat on CVSS score and the CVSS system. So for, back in the day when we were working on vulnerabilities and stuff, there was no uniform scoring system, right? We were doing more of qualitative, as high as low, right? But now, thanks to the organization that came up with that scoring system is called FIRST, right? They came up with that scoring system, and that scoring system has been adopted worldwide for all vulnerabilities, all known vulnerabilities in the world, all information security vulnerabilities or IT vulnerabilities, right? That scoring has been adopted, and that is the only scoring that is out there. Now, I think currently they have the version 4.0. Yes, I think 4.0. So they have their way of doing the scoring. You as a security professional, you are not going to be the one, calculating the score, unless of course you are an ASV under PCI and you find a vulnerability and it has no CVSS score, then you calculate your score manually, right? Either than that, automated systems that you are using, your vulnerability scanning tools, they already have adopted the CVSS score, and they also have access to the National Vulnerability Database. So if they scan and they find any vulnerability, they just automatically pick the information from the National Vulnerability Database, and they also pick the CVSS score. So it's all pre-configured in the vulnerability tools that you are using. So if you do a scan, you see a CVSS score. So for everybody today moving forward, if you didn't know, if you're even new to IT, if you see CVSS and you see maybe 4.0, 2.0 is your vulnerability score, right? So from they score it from 1 to 10. And anything that is above 4.0 going up is considered bad. Now I think from 8.9 to 10 is critical. And then for yellow, from 8.9 to I think 6 point something. Don't quote me on that. Thereabout. And I can, tell you this because for PCI, if you do a vulnerability score, anything that is above 4.0 or anything above 3.9 is considered to be critical. You have to fix it as soon as possible, or it is a failing score. Anything below 3.9, you can, whenever you get to it, you get to it. It's a passing score, right? So that is where you get the CVSS score. Is all pre-configured in all these vulnerability tools that we use. So you don't have to calculate this. But if you find yourself as an ASV and a PCI, and you find a vulnerability that has no score because it has not been scored, then you have to calculate, your own score. And there's a way to do that, right? We can do a cyber chat on that, but that is getting too in-depth into vulnerability scoring system and vulnerability. That can be a whole topic on its own. But hopefully that helps everybody else. So the prioritization, we use these, the CVSS, because that is the only scoring system that we have now. And I think is the best so far. So NIST has adopted it, everyone in the world. And for all vulnerabilities, all known vulnerabilities in the world, they all have a CVSS score. So if today, let's say Clement identifies a vulnerability, he alerts the National Vulnerability Database, they evaluate it, they accept it, they do more research on it, so they come up with more information on it. Then there's the first people will also do the calculation on the CVSS, and they will give it a score. So all vulnerabilities that are put in the National Vulnerability Database, they all come with a CVSS score already, right? So hopefully that clarifies it for everyone. Now let's jump into our treatment. So we've identified, or we discovered it, we've done the evaluation, we've done our prioritization, we've done our risk assessment. We have to come up with a remediation strategy. So we have to remediate, or we have to get rid of, or try to reduce the vulnerability as much as we can. And how do we do this? By putting in place controls that will help to mitigate this type of vulnerability. So if it was a system that was configured wrong, we make sure we reconfigure it with the right configuration standards, right? If it is training, our people are falling victims to phishing attacks that we are pushing out within our organization. That shows that our staff, they are also vulnerable. So we have to conduct a training for them. So the treatment, anything that we are doing to reduce the vulnerability is what we do for remediation. So instead of saying treatment, you have to speak the cybersecurity lingo. So you say remediation, right? And that is why I encourage everybody to join Cyber Chat and continuously, even if you get a job or you are currently working, if you are here with like-minded people, then like the cybersecurity language, you are continuously speaking it. So you become more fluent. And if you are looking for a role, or you are looking to break into cybersecurity, don't go to interviews talking about treatment when you have to say remediation, right? Talking about weakness when you have to say vulnerabilities, right? So it's very important for you to be able to master cybersecurity language, and you do so by attending programs like this, right? And we do this for free. So if you're not attending, then you are the one who has yourself to blame, right? So mitigation, reducing it. So the remediation helps us to really bring it down to an acceptable level, and that is the mitigation aspect of this. And somebody also mentioned reporting. I think it was George. So after we are doing all this, because we are conducting risk assessment, everything that we are going through, we have to also report. So how do we report? We have to document what is happening. So for your assessment, you are going to document vulnerabilities that are identified. We are going to document, and we do this to help us really stay on top of our vulnerability management game, right? And aside reporting to our higher ups or management, we also do this to make sure that if we have a recurring vulnerability, then we know how to tackle it, and get rid of it once and for all. So documentation, we are documenting the vulnerabilities, identify the action taken, and also if there are any deviations from the remediation plan, and then we move into continuous monitoring. So continuous monitoring, very critical. We have to keep a pulse on vulnerability management within the company. We don't go through all this and get to this point and whoosh, that was, a very intensive activity. We are going to go to sleep on ourselves. We don't do that because vulnerabilities, they are always going to be, there are always going to be new vulnerabilities discovered every day. So we have to stay on top of this, right? So this is an ongoing process, just like almost everything that we do in security is ongoing, right? And with that, we move into the last process, which is verification. So you are doing everything right up to the point of monitoring, continuous monitoring. But how do you know that everything that you are doing was really effective, right? So you are putting in place remediation strategies. You are putting in place controls. You are reporting and monitoring. How do you know the effectiveness, or how do you know that your remediation strategy is working? That is what we are doing here under verification, right? So after your remediation efforts, you have to verify that vulnerabilities have been indeed rectified and the impact is being felt, right? And for technology aspect, these vulnerabilities are no longer exploitable by attackers. So we have to make sure what we are doing is actually working. So the effectiveness of what we are doing is what we are talking about here when we talk about verification, right? Emmanuel, go ahead and Ransford, and we will move forward.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, what is actually different between remediation and mitigation?
All right, so you can't do, so remediation is we are fixing the problem, right? Mitigation is we are reducing a vulnerability that has been identified. So remediation goes beyond just fixing it. Remediation looks at it from the strategic point of view, right? So when we identify a vulnerability, some vulnerabilities we can totally, get rid of. So if you are totally getting rid of it, it's not mitigation. We are, mitigation is we are reducing it to an acceptable level, right? So for the ones that we cannot totally get rid of, that is where, mitigation really becomes a thing, right? So mitigation strategies that we put in place is to reduce to an acceptable level, but remediation covers everything, including mitigation, right? When it comes to dealing with risks, there are different, I think five, four, main ways to dealing with risks. We can either choose to accept, mitigate, we can choose to transfer, right? And they all have their own place. And similar to vulnerability, how we deal with vulnerability also as well. On the remediation side, mitigation, is there as well. Transferring for vulnerability transfer, that also kind of goes hand in hand with risk transfer. So, and then also avoidance or accepting the vulnerability. If we reduce vulnerability to an acceptable level, we are accepting the vulnerability, right? So that is the difference. Hopefully that helps. So remediation covers way more than mitigation.
Thank you.
Yes. I think.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead,
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask that. So, like, as we have a risk register is used for risk assessment, I wanted to know for the vulnerability management, is there like a template or like something that they can use for the reporting in case you have to give updates or to give reports about the vulnerabilities. Then like a template you have to follow for vulnerability management.
So you have to follow the processes that we looked at or the different steps that we looked at, right? Now, when it comes to vulnerability, the risks register that you're talking about is used for risk assessment, not the whole entire risk management. And risk assessment is one of the activities we do under risk management, right? So same way when we do vulnerability management, we do vulnerability assessment. And one of the vulnerability assessments that we do on the technology side is to conduct a vulnerability scan and also to identify our assets. So do an inventory of our assets, right? So for both risk management and vulnerability management, there is no, for the presentation of it, if you've conducted the whole entire process or you've gone through all the processes and you are presenting it, really there is just going to be you following all the steps and coming up with it, depending on whom you are presenting it to. If it's your management, is going to be a PowerPoint presentation and you're just going to talk about the different aspects of what you did with some, diagrams and some, statistics for them to see maybe probably what you did last year and where you were and where you are now, right? But there is no, one risk register is not kind of the template. Even if you do risk management, you're not going to present the risk register to your management. I mean, what do they care? What did you come up with? They just want to see the summary of it in a presentation format, right? But if you are presenting it to somebody who is more technical or the cybersecurity team is discussing it, then you can show your raw risk register and other items or other products that you have, right? So hopefully that helps. Michael, please go ahead.
Yes, so I would like to know how to manage residual vulnerabilities. Are we supposed to use compensating controls or how is it done?
So the meaning is in the name. Residual vulnerabilities are vulnerabilities left after we've put in place all our controls, right? If there are some vulnerabilities still left after we put in place all the controls, so those ones we just accept it. We cannot really do nothing about. Just like how we have residual risks. After all the controls we put in place, there's still going to be some type of risks. So one residual risk that everybody, any organization encounters on daily basis is zero-day vulnerabilities. You can't control it. You don't know when it's going to pop up, right? So, but you accept that. But what can help you on that side is if you have a very robust incident response program, right? So you can easily, get up and, even if an attacker hits you with through using a zero-day vulnerability that has just been identified, if you have a very robust incident response and disaster recovery and business continuity program in place, you can easily, shrug it off like nothing really happened, no matter how huge it is, right? But if you don't, those systems and those programs are a bit iffy, then a very, like a little stone that is thrown at your company becomes like a huge mountain, right? So for those, you really just accept it. You can't really do nothing about it.
And can it be transferable?
So for, let's say, yes, because risk is transferable. So
can we come in?
Kindly hold on. So risk is transferable. I mean, to deal with risks, one of the ways that we deal with risks, security risks, is we can transfer it. Right now, when you transfer it, that doesn't mean you don't have to do anything about it. So it is not only your residual risks that you are transferring, right? Your whole entire risks, you will transfer, but you still have to do everything possible to make sure risks does not materialize. And in this space, still looking at the vulnerability management side, your vulnerabilities, you have to manage yourself. So even if you have an insurance company covering your, insurance, that doesn't mean, so if you have an insurance for your car, it doesn't mean you should go hitting people, left and right when you are driving, right? You still try to be careful as much as you can, but risks might happen regardless of how careful you are. So if it does happen, then you have a backup plan, right? So you don't, all that loss is not going to come to you, but somebody else is going to bear some of that cost. And it's not free. The people who help you bear the cost, they're also going to take money from you all year long, whether it happens or not. And that is the insurance people, right? William, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, Doctor, please, I wanted to buttress what you were saying, because first of all, there is a 0-day vulnerability whereby whether you want it or not, something will surely happen, although you may be able to match everything that you are thinking. But as you said, you should be able to categorize the risk. We have the risk tolerance, the risk acceptance, the risk transference, and then risk avoidance. So if you know that by treating a vulnerability can cost, let's say the organization this, and you can accept it, fine. But if you cannot accept it, you can transfer it, as you mentioned, the insurance company. But the residual thing that my brother said, of course, the way you mentioned, the remediation, the mitigation, and the continuous monitoring will help you to make sure that in any situation that you have, you are going to lessen the vulnerability to the level in which the company or the organization can accept it.
Yes. Thank you for that input, William. So now we are going to jump into a new version of vulnerability management that has been all over the place in the cybersecurity sphere. So we call it the risk-based vulnerability management, right? And what is risk-based vulnerability management? So risk-based vulnerability management is the traditional vulnerability management on steroids, right? Kindly mute yourselves. So risk-based vulnerability management is relatively new, but it's been around for a little bit. And what it does is it is using AI together with machine learning capabilities to enhance what we do in vulnerability management. And there are three main important twists to this. So the first one is there is more content for more effective prioritization, right? Real-time discovery, so real-time identification, and also automated reassessment. So mostly for the things that we mentioned, for the steps for your discovery and identification on the technology side, the new approach to vulnerability management, automated systems, they help us to do our inventory, and then also with the discovery, real-time discovery. Not to say the tools that we had previously were not doing that, but like I said, these tools that we are using in this space, they are on steroids compared to the other one, right? So this is an approach that I want everybody to dig more into in terms of where risk management is heading towards. Now, there's another twist to risk management that maybe, who is familiar with attack surface management? Anyone? Or before we even get into attack surface management, what is attack surface?
Attack surface is the extent, let's say you have a big bus. You gave that example, and a smaller car. When you are hitting it, which one has more space to get many spaces of vulnerability?
Okay.
The bus will have a wider spot because it's broader in terms of size.
Okay.
I don't know if I make any sense.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Andy. Jason, please go ahead.
So that is the area that is open to attack within the business space. Endpoints and other areas that are open to attack from threat actors.
Okay. Felix, please go ahead.
So example is if you have a system and you disable unnecessary services, you are reducing the attack surface.
Okay. So thank you everyone for your input. Now let's go the grandpa style. So if you have a house, in your house, your apartment, or let's just go with a house. A house, one house by itself with a fence around it. If you were a thief, or you've been paid to break into this house. The house has 2 doors, one in the front, one behind, and then 5 windows, 3 on the first floor, and then 2 on the second floor. How many ways do you have to get into the house? So let me repeat this. The house has 2 doors, 5 windows. How many ways, if you have to break into this house, you have to break into this house any way possible. How many ways do you have to break into this house?
7 ways.
7.
7 ways.
7 ways.
7. Okay. What if we have another house? It has only 2 doors, no windows. How many ways do you have to break into that house?
2 doors.
2. Okay. So the house with 7 doors and the house with 2 doors, which one of those will be easier to break into?
The one with 7
7 doors.
Yes. So attack surface here simply means the house with more avenues to break into. That is the number of attack surface, or that is the attack surface. It has a broader attack surface than the one with just 2 doors. So let's bring it down to information security. If your company has 5,000 computers, 5,000 computers, 500 servers, and you are using 100 applications or 100 different softwares. Another company has 100 computers. They are using only 4 softwares over there. If we have a plural for softwares, and they have only 3 servers. The one with 5,000 and all total, like everything in total for this company, in terms of things that they have, systems and applications, software and hardware, is like 7,000. This company, the total is like maybe 1,200. Which of these 2 companies has a broader attack surface?
7,000.
Yes, obviously the one with 7,000. So attack surface simply is the number of avenues that an attacker has to break into your network. So with a house example, the number of avenues, so the windows, the doors, if they will try one window, it doesn't work, they will try another window, it doesn't work. Probably the last window wasn't even locked. So it's just a matter of just, trying to break it, and they'll just lift it and it just opens by itself. And there they are in your house without even trying, right? But the one with just 2 doors, if they try, all things being equal, they try 2 doors, the 2 doors are locked. Well, better luck next time. Now, if they really want to break in, it means they have to do more work and break the door, right? But maybe that door is too difficult for them, so they might want to leave it and go to another one. But they have only 2 doors. But the house with 2 doors and 5 windows, if they try the doors and they are too hard, they will try the windows. At least one of the 5 windows might be a bit easier, and they'll use that to get in, right? But whatever the case is, they have 7 ways of getting into your house. The house with 2 doors, they have only 2 ways. So what is the probability that, trying it 7 times and trying it 2 times? Obviously, you have more chances with the 7 times. So any organization with the more things you have, the more you are increasing your attack surface. Even when we bring it to our personal lives, now everybody wants to, stay with the technological advancement. So you want a smart TV, smartwatch, tablet, smart scale. Some of us are even using smart fridge, smart windows, smart everything. You are just increasing your attack surface. So now attackers, because everything that is smart is connected to the internet, and attackers can easily get on your network or, with using different gadgets that you have. So without you knowing, you are just increasing. So at every moment that you are getting any smart something, remember, what are you doing about, your attack surface? You are just increasing it. So we have attack surface management as well. That is also a thing. So for all IT folks and cybersecurity folks, and for everybody who's trying to get into the space, this is probably something that if you were not aware of it, attack surface management is also a thing. And what is the difference between attack surface management and vulnerability management? So we are just going to look at this briefly and we'll wrap up for tonight. So attack surface management, we are doing everything that we are doing for vulnerability management and then more, right? So it looks like it looks at vulnerability management from a very holistic approach. So we go beyond just vulnerability management. It comes with your discovery, continuous discovery, analysis, remediation, monitoring of your vulnerabilities and potential threats, vectors or threat actors within the organization, right? So anything that affects the attack surface, it is looking at. So it is not just looking at your vulnerabilities. So anything that goes beyond even vulnerability management is what attack surface takes. So it's a more holistic approach. Now, with the new approach to vulnerability management, the difference or the fine line between attack surface management and vulnerability management is disappearing. So it is becoming almost like the same thing. With the risk-based approach that we are taking to vulnerability management and with the AI twist and all that, now that is also becoming kind of mimicking exactly what attack surface management is doing, right? So now there's really not much of a fine line between the two. It is the line between the two is gradually diminishing, right? So this is something for you to also dig into for the weekend. And with that, we are going to wrap up for tonight. So for all folks trying to get into the cybersecurity space, if you want a training that is going to, mimic exactly what we did tonight and more in terms of doing, jump into our cybersecurity entry-level course. And also for folks trying to specialize in one of the lucrative niches in the security space, PCI DSS class is where you need to be. And if you are looking for real-world hands-on experience, your working experience, that is the question most people ask. So if I get into cybersecurity, I'm a nurse, how do I get working experience, or do I just lie on my resume? For us, you don't lie on your resume. You're actually going to do some cybersecurity projects that goes on your resume, right? And, not just doing the projects, but you'll be able to also effectively work in different roles when you do get the opportunity, right? And our conference, kindly do register for it. We are going to put the details in the link. That way you can register and show your intent. We are not, you are just registering to show your intent. That is all that you are doing to help us with planning aspect of this, right? And with that, we are going to wrap up. So for our WhatsApp group, it's full now, but just if you want to join, the link will also be posted, so you can also join as well. And with that, we are wrapping up for tonight. Any questions for the group whilst we post the link for all our information on here, including what we are going to be doing for the conference? So kindly raise your virtual hand. Jason, please go ahead.
So it's not a part of the question for the group. I just want to say publicly, thank you, Doc. I'm on to the next round because of your advice, so it was a big help.
Oh, for your interview?
Yes, I'm going on to the initial now. Thank you.
Okay. And Jason is interviewing in Japan. So just to let you know, cybersecurity jobs are everywhere. Right. All right. For all the details have been posted in the chat. So kindly look at the chat, and you'll be able to either. So for folks on here, if you've not taken our free cybersecurity, any of our free trainings, they are on there. You can hop on there. And for everything else, internship, everything is going on tomorrow. All our seniors and our new interns, we are meeting same times as has been communicated. And if there are no more questions for the group, I think we are running out of time a little bit, but I appreciate everybody who put where they joining us from in the chat.
I have something to ask.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, the last week, I think you said there was a workshop on 27th, but I didn't see nothing on my phone. And tomorrow too, you said there's something. And today too, I didn't see nothing on my phone. So I would like to join.
Check your email.
But no, the last time I asked you.
Or you can reach out. So Philip, hold on.
Yes.
We normally will post the links to all entry-level students to, declare their intent. So if you did, the emails were sent out. So everybody who did, they were able to join. If you didn't, you can shoot us a text and we'll add you to the list and send you the details, right?
Okay.
So kindly, as part of our duties as security professionals, attention to detail, very critical.
Okay.
Right. So just shoot the test and they will send you all the information that you need to be able to join tomorrow.
Okay. Okay.
All right,
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
everybody's time.
Thank
And
you.
if there were a question in the chat that wasn't addressed, kindly you can raise your virtual hand and bring it up. But either than that, we appreciate everybody and everybody for where you're joining us from. I think, yes, we have all of that. And all the team lives, kindly take a screenshot of it. That way you can use it for your renewal. Have a great evening and also have a great and a wonderful summer weekend and stay safe. Drink more water. It's getting a bit warm here in New York. So stay safe, and we are going to meet next week, same time, for another edition of Cyber Chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, thanks, Dr.
Thanks, bye.